Hey all, this is John Trent from Bounding Into Comics, and I've got some Tom Holland and Spider-Man news for you today. Holland recently appeared at the Keystone Comic Con in Pennsylvania, where he revealed his love for Sony's recent animated film Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. While discussing the film, he also indicated that it was difficult to bring Green Goblin to live action. Here's what he said, as reported by comicbook.com. Quote, "There are characters in the comics who are so hard to bring to life, like the Green Goblin, for me, is a real difficult one to bring to a live-action screen. So seeing him in that capacity was so cool because he stayed true to the comics, and I just, for me, really enjoyed different aspects of what Spider-Man is to people and his journey. I didn't really know much about Miles' character because I'm so invested in Peter Parker to play him, and it was just nice to learn about a different aspect of Spider-Man." I don't know about you, but this statement is just utterly absurd. Has Tom Holland actually watched a Spider-Man movie? Why are people freaking out so hard about his version of Spider-Man leaving the MCU when he thinks it's difficult to bring Green Goblin to live action? Earth to Tom Holland! Willem Dafoe did live action Green Goblin in the first live action Spider-Man film. He was literally the first Spider-Man villain to bring Green Goblin to live action. Not only that, but the Green Goblin is actually the most used live-action Spider-Man villain. He not only appeared in the first Spider-Man film, but would go on to appear in Spider-Man 3 as James Franco's Harry Osborn became the Green Goblin. Then, in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, the Green Goblin is once again a villain. This time he's played by Dane DeHaan. I don't think Sony has had much difficulty bringing Green Goblin to live action, whether it's with Norman Osborn or Harry Osborn. In fact, the Green Goblin is an excellent villain and probably one of the easier ones to bring to live action. There's a reason why he's Spider-Man's Joker. He's a personal villain who ends up betraying Spider-Man. He's the father of Peter Parker's best friend. Not only that, but Goblin builds up trust with him, even taking him under his wing and mentoring him at points. That trust is completely broken when he reveals himself as the Green Goblin and a psychopathic criminal. One could argue they use this personal trust aspect of Green Goblin's character in Spider-Man Far From Home with Mysterio. If they wanted to do a new live-action version of Green Goblin with a fresh take, they could have Norman Osborn acting as a kind of security official. In the comics, he eventually becomes the director of the Thunderbolts and uses them to try and capture Spider-Man. They could make him some kind of high-level New York City official who oversees superpowered individuals. He could be similar to DC's Amanda Waller and sends B-tier Spider-Man villains out to capture Spider-Man in the name of justice. It would fit in with how Far From Home ended with Spider-Man being accused of murder and him being outed as Peter Parker by Mysterio and J. Jonah Jameson. It would also give us a different look at Green Goblin and could be used to set up sequels where Peter eventually has to root out the corruption in New York City and return to his roots as the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. So you can see, like, the first one is like he's kind of just the guy behind he's the man behind the curtain sending out all these villains after Peter Parker, similar to kind of how we have Nova in Elita Battle Angel. We don't really see him playing a big role. He's just this man who's using these pawns to do his dirty work. And you could use that same kind of theme, trope, whatever you want to call it, for Norman Osborn and the Green Goblin. I mean, we've seen that work in the comics, and it worked successfully. It could easily work in film. We've seen that kind of role be played out, as I mentioned, in Alita. You see it in that kind of trope with a friend betraying someone. He's like Green Goblin is like Peter Parker's Fredo Corleone. So I definitely think it could work. But finally, I have some advice for Tom Holland. Go watch Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 1 and see what a live-action Green Goblin looks like. It's happened, it's great, and I mean, that's just a great film. Go watch it. But I want to hear from you. Do you have any advice for Tom Holland? What do you make about his comments? Do you agree with him? Do you think it's actually really hard to bring Green Goblin to live action, or do you completely disagree with him and you find his comments as absurd as I do? Let me know in the comments, just right there below. My name is John Trent, and you've been watching Bounding Into Comics. See you next time.